Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jim Ninsel, host of AZ Illustrated Politics, our weekly analysis and commentary on local, state, and national affairs. On tonight's show, Tucson voters may get the chance to decide whether to stop the city from using cameras to bust people who run red lights. Will we retire RoboCop? Plus, what's the future of the Tucson Convention Center? And are next year's congressional campaigns already underway? All that and more coming up on AZ Illustrated Politics. But first, a look at today's top stories.
Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano is leaving her cabinet post to become president of the University of California. Napolitano, who is a former Arizona governor, was sworn in as secretary in January of 2009. She is the longest-serving Secretary of Homeland Security. In her new role at the University of California, she'll oversee 11 campuses, and she'll be the first woman to hold that position. Just 8 months after an election so close that candidates were separated by less than 1% of the votes, the Congressional District 2 election cycle has started again. 3 things happened this week to signal a start to a new election cycle in Arizona's Southeastern Congressional District 2. First, Republican Martha McSally announced she filed the paperwork to run again against Democratic Congressman Ron Barber. Then the National Republican Congressional Committee did a poll in the race, which shows the two tied in a rematch. And after that, Barber's campaign sent a fundraising request to his supporters saying he wants to respond to McSally and the Republican Party. The primary and general elections for that race are still more than a year away. And that's a look at tonight's headlines.
The fate of George Zimmerman is now in the hands of a jury to determine whether the Florida man is guilty in the shooting death of an unarmed teenager.
We recap the trial's closing day as the defense attorney argued the prosecution did not prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Then we return to the saga of Edward Snowden. Amid reports the leaker of U.S. national security secrets may cut a deal for asylum in Russia.
We update the probe into the plane crash in San Francisco, where crews are removing wreckage from the runway nearly a week after the accident.
Spencer Michaels reports from California's San Joaquin Valley on efforts to turn dry riverbeds into healthy waterways.
And Mark Shields and David Brooks analyze the week's news.
That's all ahead on tonight's NewsHour.
Tonight on Arizona Week, PCC's new Chancellor Lee Lambert talks about the role of community colleges in job training and economic development.
We're perfectly positioned to help power the labor force for that modern era of manufacturing, of servicing. When you think about it from that standpoint, there are more jobs in that middle tier than there are on the upper tier.
That's tonight at 8:30 on PBS 6.
Two groups have turned in petitions to put initiatives on this year's city ballot. One would ban those cameras that bust speeders and people who run red lights. The other would scrap the city of Tucson's pension system. Here to talk about this year's city election, Tucson Metro Chamber President Mike Varney, Republican consultant Sam Stone, and Don Jorgensen, chairman of the Pima County Democratic Party. Thanks to all of you guys for being here. Sam, the photo radar initiative. Now, there's plenty of signatures turned in there, a lot of padding. There could still be legal challenges to knock it off the ballot. But if it does go to the ballot, you think the voters are going to scrap the radar enforcement?
It's really hard to tell. I think this will be an interesting one because there's no party line division on this. This isn't a left or right issue. People either hate the cameras or they like them. And I fall into the camp, I think the things are terrible, but maybe that has to do more with my driving than anything else. So I'm happy to see that this is on the ballot. I don't think there's much chance it's going to get knocked off. They turned in more than double the number of signatures. There's tons of padding, as you said. So I think this may have a pretty good chance of passing, and I will enjoy it quite a bit when it does.
Don, it's certainly an issue that people are going to relate to more than some ballot initiatives we've seen.
Oh, that's absolutely right. And unlike Sam, I haven't heard from anyone who doesn't like or likes them. I think most people don't. There's always some bit of it smacks of Big Brother and watching over. What's interesting, though, is when they came in at, I think, 8 intersections in 2007, there were 200 crashes. Since then, in 2012, there are only 74. So they may be creating a safer environment, and that's what we'll all have to weigh. But yeah, there's no predicting what'll happen here.
And Mike, how about this other initiative, the one involving the city's pension program? Sure. Talked to Jonathan Rothschild this week, and he was saying that he's concerned that if you do it as abruptly as this initiative would require, you're going to create huge budget issues for the city of Tucson.
Yeah, this is an issue that a lot of states and municipalities are dealing with, Jim, and the trend is clearly to go from defined benefit to defined contribution. That trend is all over the country. So it's not a new concept here in Tucson, but there is a way to do that so that the people who were promised those pension funds receive them, but you just change the arc, change the bias of the curve just a little bit so that over a long period of time it starts to head in the right direction. I used to live in the state of Nevada, and the state had a public employee retirement system, and they went through exactly that same process, and they found that sweet spot where the existing employees could be taken care of, but they could also pick a date and time and start the downward flight of that arc, and that's what we need to do here.
And Sam, what do you think about the initiative?
Well, it's definitely time we address this problem, because over time this is going to become a bigger and bigger issue for the city as these pension deficits eat up a greater portion of our budget. If we talk about all the things that we want our city government to do, from paving roads and providing community services, those things are all going to shrink over time unless we address this problem now. So I think Mike is 100% correct. This may not be the ideal way to go about this, but at least we're finally bringing some attention to what's going on. This has been a hidden problem for too many years. You hear the argument coming from the city now that we can't do this because we need these current workers to fund the pensions of the ones who are retired or about to retire. The problem with that is that was never what the system was designed for. It wasn't designed for a worker today to pay for a worker from yesterday. The problem is these haven't been adequately funded over many, many years. The financial management of the funds themselves has been less than ideal, certainly less than market standard. And so what you've seen is this problem growing and growing and growing, and no one doing anything about it until now. So maybe this ballot initiative isn't the ideal solution, but at least we're finally talking about this issue, and we may make some progress to solving it.
It's no solution at all. There's no question that the city needs pension reform, no question. But it would be disaster to take the first bad idea that comes along, and this is a bad idea. First of all, it's coming from an out-of-state, pretty extremist group from Virginia. No one in Tucson brought this up. I think they have a paid person here running it. But more important, it's not addressing the problem in a reasonable way. The research that's been done has indicated that it'll cost the city more in the first 10 to 15 years. Some estimated it might bankrupt the city. I don't know about that, but $24 million more in the first year, $10 million or more in subsequent years for 10 to 15 years. That's the arc Mike's talking about, but we may never get there with this kind of plan. And it's also true that, in fact, every pension plan across the country relies on active current workers to fund the retirement. The other issue is being very careful what we're doing with the pensions of city workers. There's always a trade-off with city workers. They're trading off lower pay for a benefit.
Well,
and we have to be careful with that benefit.
True, I would go with that argument. The problem is that government employees now make more than their public sector counterparts.
Well, that's not always accurate. And it's more about keeping a commitment and protecting those funds and protecting the city. We agree on that. There has to be reform. But to take an idea that could do this kind of damage to the city of Tucson from an outside group that's clearly anti-public employee, anti-tax, isn't the way to go. What I would rather see is copying what was done in Phoenix, not Las Vegas. In Phoenix, the city council put together a committee that looked at what are the reasonable options that work for Phoenix. They came up with a solution that is working. I'd like to give the group in Tucson that has been designated by the mayor and the city council working on this issue to have the chance to design a program that fits our city.
Well, we'll obviously be following this all the way up to Election Day. But let's also talk about the City Council this week voted to work with the Rio Nuevo Board to repair the Tucson Convention Center, mostly cosmetic elements because they don't have that much money to spend. And they're also going to start the process towards private management of the facility. Sam, can a private company manage the Tucson Convention Center in a way that actually makes it a profitable, or at least brings more events?
Well, it's hard to say whether they can make it profitable or not, because you have a lot of real structural problems with the facility, even with the upgrades that they're talking about making, in terms of who you can attract. For instance, it's a lousy acoustic venue, so when you're talking about concerts and that sort of thing, you're pretty limited. This is an opportunity we missed years ago to raise the TCC and build something truly modern in its place. And that's something that, unfortunately now, and you know, I know everyone will be shocked to hear this coming from a Republican, at some point we're going to have to address that. We're going to have to look at rebuilding a new TCC there. But it is a really positive step to put this in private management hands, considering the number of problems that we've had with the management of TCC over the years, the lack of adequate events coming in, all the little problems that have been associated with it. Let's get a group in there. Let's see if they can bring in some more business. Let's see if they can add some more to this downtown revitalization. And hopefully, I think this can be a very good thing for the city of Tucson.
Don, what are your thoughts?
We agree. All the way down. I mean, it's an outdated facility, but it makes sense at this point to put that money in. It's a great example of a public-private partnership. And when you contract with an outside group to do this, as Sam described, the city still retains control in that sense over the contractor, and I hope holding them to certain performance guarantees and ideally generate a profit. But it's a smart move.
Mike?
Yeah, I'd take just kind of a business approach, a pure business approach. Where does the TCC fit into the spectrum of venues for conferences and entertainment? What niche do we have? We're never going to be the world's biggest conference center. We may not be the world's best entertainment venue, but with the existing facility, what kinds of events and what kinds of conferences can we draw? And I hope somebody did the homework on that before we spent $1 on the repairs. It's great to see the TCC getting some facelifts, but will that make it a more marketable facility? That I haven't seen any data on, and I really hope somebody's got it.
And I wanted to also ask you just about, you've been critical of some of the moves the city has made lately with the Grand Canyon University fiasco, where they were looking possibly at purchasing the El Rio golf course, and that sort of became a big political battle, and there have been a few other things involving Davis Monson and whatnot. Sure. Your thoughts on where the city is just in general as this election season gets underway and dealing with the business community?
It's hard to put that into a short elevator speech, but if I had to, I would say that we need to start opening our negotiations with outside interests that want to bring jobs and wealth to our community from a posture of yes rather than a posture of no. And we tend to start with no and then see if we can get closer to yes. We should start with yes as the objective and see what we need to do to confirm that yes. So I think it's just it's a change of attitude. It's a change of mindset about embracing change and embracing economic opportunity whenever it shows up, whether it's a big project like Grand Canyon or a smaller project. Let's start with yes.
And you've had you've been working with both, you're relatively new here to Tucson, you've been working with both the city and the county, and I think you've had a better working relationship with county officials.
Yeah, I think the county, frankly, has come around to realizing that we need companies here to have a good tax base and all the things that a good tax base delivers, roads, parks, schools, et cetera, et cetera. I think the county's been faster in the 2 years that I've been here, faster to come around and realize that they need to do more. They've got to remove more of the impediments and the roadblocks to development and economic opportunity. I would say the county has the edge in that. I would also say at the same time that the city has shown some real bright spots recently too, that they're starting to wake up and realize that we can't keep shipping this opportunity to other cities and expect our community to grow.
Don, your thoughts on where the city is in terms of working with the business community?
Well, I think we've got recent evidence that we're on the right track with the new leadership in the past couple of years at the city, with the mayor, with council members like Kozaczek and like all of them, frankly, Karen Newlook, have really focused on development and supporting development. You can see that downtown. We have, I think, $60 million in development, vertical development happening right now. Another $60 million in permits in June were approved. We talked about this not too long ago about all the new restaurants downtown, about the student development moving in, about condos coming in. That's showing a city that understands working with business and developing these kinds of private-public partnerships and plans to do that. My concern, frankly, is that the Chamber has focused on the negative too much than the positive. And I'm glad to hear you talking about moving some positive steps forward, because that's what's needed. I think it's become too politicized, frankly, and too divisive, and it's kept small business owners like me away from the Chamber. I want to see the Chamber get back to representing the interest of the community as a whole. That's the City Council working together. That's working with small business and continuing to develop it further, as I think the City Council has done in the past several months, and I think realistically over the past year. It's a different approach than perhaps Mike was used to in Las Vegas, but again, Tucson's a different city.
I would answer that this way. When I say things like we want to accelerate the embrace of change and the embrace of opportunity, that's not one person speaking, that's not our board speaking, that's businesses here in the Tucson metro area that are telling us that we don't want things to operate the way they have for the last 2 decades. There was a wonderful editorial in the Arizona Daily Star here a couple of Sundays ago by Cy Shore, who went down the list of lost opportunities that we've had here. And I will tell you that although I've only been a resident of Tucson for 2 years, I have never seen the business community more ready for change and more ready to push for that change than they are right now. And they're asking us to do that, and we will continue to push on their behalf.
And Sam, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think definitely we've seen some improvements over the last couple of years. Things have gotten a little bit better, but they still have a long way to go. I think the El Rio situation illustrated that perfectly. That was a really good opportunity that shouldn't have been, maybe wasn't something that we would have embraced in the end, but it should have been looked at very carefully and considered in all the conversations taken place between Grand Canyon University and the El Rio activists, that sort of thing. Why wasn't that facilitated by the city? And Mike is absolutely right. This attitude of no, or first you have to fill out another form and let's do this over here and this step over there, that's got to go. We've seen in Phoenix, for instance, they've created a process that allows business owners to get their business license in 1 day. They bring their paperwork to City Hall, they walk out the door with their business license. That's the kind of attitude we need to foster here. And Mike's exactly right. It has to start with every city employee, every public employee here in the city of Tucson and this greater area saying, yes, we can. Yes, we can. Absolutely, we will. Because until we really change that attitude, you've seen business after business that dips their toe into the water here and they get those first little nibbles from the sharks and they're gone. They never give us another opportunity. And that's got to stop. Instead of having little piranhas in there nibbling on their toes, we need to have nice, friendly goldfish kissing them.
You also have to tell the whole story, and it's easy to take shots at the City Council because of El Rio, but at the same time, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. We're talking about supporting a public-private partnership with running the TCC. The city was engaged in that same process and still is in seeking bids to run the golf courses, and there's 5 of them, not just one. You don't want the city to renege on those kind of promises and looking at the best alternatives for all of them, and that was going on. And so this attack on the city because they didn't all of a sudden drop that and look at the next nice-looking woman to come along, if you would, as an example.
I think they have an obligation to look at the best opportunity available.
And they were. And they were.
And they pushed that opportunity aside without giving it a chance.
How do you know? Because the attack on them came without looking at the whole story and without looking at what's happening and what's best for all of Tucson in the long run, looking at what to do with all of these golf courses and still continuing to talk to find other locations for the university. All that's going on, but this kind of sniping at the City Council whenever they're engaged in these processes is not productive, and we need, again, more positive focus and more communication working with the City Council rather than attacking them in the newspaper when they reach out to you.
The positiveness has to come from the City Council. we're very positive about economic development. In a recent editorial,
and you don't think looking at bids to run the city courses again in a private-public partnership was a positive step?
There's no signed agreement between the city and any of those vendors.
No, it's in process now.
It is
Mike,
in the
you know that.
I understand it's in the process,
Okay.
but there's no signed agreement, so there's no commitment in place. And so just because you have one ace in your hand, you don't say no thanks to the three that you could have put in your hand.
Well, there was a commitment to the Tucson Conquistadors and the First Tee
Conquistadors,
program.
nobody
and
loves
you can't
this
ignore
city
that.
better or more than the Conquistadors. And if the city had
can't turn
been
your back on
creative,
that.
if the city had been creative, they would have worked with the Conquistadors. The Conquistadors would have said, we need this facility here, we want this university here, let's work something out, we'll move the First Tee someplace else. I can guarantee you they would have done that.
Let me ask you just about the headlines we saw recently about the idea of rebranding the city and the Old Pueblo question, and let you talk a little bit about what was going on there.
Yeah. We had an event, the Tucson Metro Chamber had an event here several weeks ago, the Chairman's Luncheon. We had a program at that event, a printed program. And inside the front of the program, we said that the Old Pueblo is great for history, for culture, heritage, and so forth and so on. But we don't want to have an Old Pueblo mindset and attitude, in quotations, mindset and attitude about moving our economy forward. We live and work and compete in a global economy that's driven by technology and innovation and fast change. And if we don't embrace that speed of change and the need for us to do things differently and really get onto that global bandwagon about economic development here, the rest of the world will embrace that, and we don't want to be stuck in time. So never once did we say at the Chamber that the motto should be changed. We're very fine with the motto. The newspaper article misrepresented that, unfortunately, very badly. Especially in the headline, where the headline was something like, we want to change, the Tucson Metro Chamber wants to change the motto. We've never brought that up. In the article, it said that the board is going to float the idea. The board's never even talked about that. So that, unfortunately, was a very, very bad misrepresentation of the dialogue that I actually had with the writer. So let's keep the Old Pueblo motto for the city. Let's just have a little different mindset and attitude about how we go forward in this economy.
Don?
Yeah, as you know, we've had campaigns before to look at a new model. I always preferred the baked apple, but yeah, it's not about a silly marketing campaign or rebranding. It's about bringing business together, working in a positive way with the city council, with the county board, and not sniping, but really looking at how to work together and being open to overtures from the city council, not rejecting them as has happened.
Sam?
I think there's a lot of value into looking at really starting to brand Tucson in a positive forward direction. I think that's something that for years we haven't done on any official or unofficial level very effectively. You've had a number of groups that have pushed various branding campaigns for the region, but we haven't seen a coordinated, constructive campaign on that front. And I think the time is ripe for that, because you look at, there is a lot of vitality going in downtown, a very nice flavor developing in downtown. You have a great opportunity right now, frankly, with all these golf courses that we have sitting almost idle for visitors to come into this region, take advantage. So I think there are a lot of things right now, when you combine all those with the growing biotech industry here, the things that the U of A is doing, there's an opportunity. We should be looking at ways to brand Tucson in a very forward-thinking light and say, hey, this is a hot, happening place.
And we have that new Visit Tucson
That's
campaign
exactly
going
what
on
they
with
did.
the Tucson Metro
With,
Chamber.
Lose Yourself.
The
CVB.
Yeah. Some quick politics here. We've got about 5 minutes left. Sam, we had Martha McSally announce this week that she's considering a run against Congressman Ron Barber. Very close race last time. Do you think McSally's in this race or not?
I think she's in for sure. I haven't had any discussions with her on this subject, but I don't think there's any question she's in. And you're probably also going to have another Republican contender, a guy named Ed Martin, who is, I believe, out of New York, fills in for John Justice on his local morning talk show when John's out of town. He is almost certainly also going to be jumping in this race. So there will be a primary on the Republican side. Hard to see McSally getting beaten in a Republican primary. She has a lot of strength in name ID, and she's going to be a very, very formidable candidate. The mechanics with the special election last time limited her name ID, especially at the time when early ballots went out. she's past that hurdle now, I think it's a serious challenge.
And Don, is 2012, of course, the presidential election year. 2014, the midterms. You have a different voter turnout model going on, and you had a very close race last time.
We did. I think she benefited from actually Romney's coattails. Remember, Romney took Arizona, and so she had that. She also had some good name ID. That was her second race, actually. And Martha's a very nice woman. I met her. She has served our country well. I respect that very much. I think she followed Jesse Kelly's example, unfortunately, and disappeared for 2 years. I think she was back in D.C. and other parts raising money. So there's no question she's going to run and probably will be the Republican candidate. My concern is she's addressed no policy issues and has a lot of questions to answer. And I think the media went pretty easy on her last time, with one exception, and that's the Tucson Weekly. But we don't know where she stands on all these GOP culture war issues. Where does she stand on DOMA and Proposition 8? Where does she stand on the Arizona issue to allow same-sex marriage? Where does she stand on, she talks about women's rights, but where does she stand on Arizona's ban on abortion at 20 weeks? Where does she stand on women's access to birth control and to their own reproductive rights? She hasn't answered any of these questions, and I think there's a lot for her to do to address any of these issues.
The campaign's going to unfold. And
that's been a constant mantra. We've heard that. She has addressed most of these issues, but more to the point, she stopped, the election was in November. We're now less than 9 months, so it's certainly not 2 years that she disappeared. She took a couple of months off, as I think anyone would after a congressional campaign, and is, writing a book and doing all sorts of things. So, I think it's silly to lay these sort of same accusations out as if she was the same candidate that Jesse Kelly is. I think
we don't know what she is. She hasn't addressed anything.
Well, this campaign will come forward. Adam Quasman, state representative, announcing that he's going to run for Congress as well, or is exploring a run for Congress in CD1, which is the sprawling district represented by Ann Kirkpatrick. Now goes from Oro Valley all the way up to Flagstaff, most of eastern rural Arizona. Sam, Adam, you were kind of rivals with him during a congressional campaign last time. He may have even offered you a job at one point. Adam's shot here in that district.
Well, I certainly think he has a very good shot in the primary. His challenge, like as with anybody, is that district is so sprawling. It's bigger than a lot of states, and you start out where he has some name ID here in this area and in the northwest portion of Tucson, but who knows him in Flagstaff? So that's a lot of work.
And about 30 seconds left here, Don. Okay. Your thoughts about that?
CD1, leans slightly dim, but it's going to take a pretty moderate person to win that, and Kirkpatrick is. Quasman isn't. I mean, he ran some pretty far-right campaigns. He, I think, won in LD11 on Al Melvin's pretty conservative coattails, and I don't think he's going to appeal to that kind of moderate group. As you said, it's a very large, sprawling district. And,
it's amazing that we're discussing this race as early as we are. Lots to come in that front. That is all the time we have for tonight. I'd like to thank these gentlemen for joining us, and we will be right back with some closing thoughts. That's our show for tonight, but you can learn more about politics by visiting azpm.org or by following us on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Jim Ninsel. Thanks for watching another edition of AZ Illustrated Politics.